Welcome to Growth Matters Business and Insights and Tech Trends. My name is Justice. We talk about business, technology, and current events. So enjoy, sit back, and relax. It's you and me having a timely conversation. Today's episode is talking about academics and arts. And it's a pleasure to have as our guest today, Dr. Emmett G. Price III, who is a higher education learner, as well administrator, musician, an internationally recognized expert of Black music and culture, Afro-diasporic, sacred and secular expressions, and Christian worship, a well-regarded scholar, educator, and higher education administrator. Dr. Price has uniquely ability to capture the hearts and minds of most diverse and versatile audience with his compassionate sense of humor, his intellect, and his quick wit. Dr. Price serves as the founding dean of Africana Studies at Berklee College of Music and Boston Conservatory at Berklee. Prior to his current post, Dr. Price served on the faculty of Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary from 2016 to 2021, where he founded the Institute for Study of Black Christian Experience, and Northeastern University from 2001 to 2016, where he served as the chair of the Department of African American Studies. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
My dear brother, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, could you please share a little bit about your background with our listening audience before we get into this conversation?
Well, absolutely, man. Born and raised in Los Angeles, the Leimert Park area of Los Angeles.
Right.
If you've seen movies like Training Day, or if you've seen television shows like Moesha, that's my hood, as it were.
Okay.
And grew up in a loving family. My father's a longtime musician and worked for the state of California and was a union guy. My mother's a longtime educator. And so, that compassion as well as that courage, I grew up there. Musical family.
Okay.
My father's from New Orleans, my mother's from Alabama. Lloyd Price, 40s and 50s, big time R&B star as far as family. And so music saved my life, the church saved my life, and praying parents saved my life.
Hey, all right. That sounds real good. Can you kind of take us back a little bit to your days, share the anecdote about your moment from the undergraduate studies at University of California, Berkeley, that sparked your interest in Black music and culture and the Christian worship?
Yeah, there's a funny story here going back to high school. My parents pulled me out of the public schools due to the gang warfare in Los Angeles at the time, and certainly the corruption of the Los Angeles Police Department. And so I went to a prep school out in the Valley, and there we had everything you could imagine. The school was a wealthy school. We had the synthesizer lab. We had all kinds of things. So I would cut math class to go to the synthesizer lab and create music and make tracks and all kind of stuff. And that math class that I was cutting was AP Calculus AB. And the teacher at the time was really frustrated because I would cut class and I'd get a B+ on tests. And the person told me, "You'll never get this. You're not going to get this." You're kind of challenging me, which is one of the things that people have learned in my life. I don't really respond well to negative,
Okay.
And so that person went to UCLA. So I made my mind up. I was going to Cal Berkeley. I was going to major in mathematics. That's what I did. And when I got there, Professor Ollie Wilson was the first Black professor that I had, music professor. And he literally changed my life, man. He's one of my first great mentors besides my father and my pastor at the time. And he took to me and taught me things that I never knew about Black people, Black music, about arts and culture. And I said that, should it be in the queue of my life, I want to be very similar to him. I want to have as much impact as he has. And so I double majored math and music and, finished that degree and became a music professor, just like Dr. Ollie Wilson.
Wow. That's a great story. You have a tremendous amount of leadership experience. And what are some of your formative leadership experiences that you will use to approach leading the Africana studies?
Yeah, well, as a product of the Black church, man, we, as kids, we had a, youth department, we had youth council, we had the junior ushers. I'm a musician, so we, part of the thing that I learned as a young person is that if you have ideas and you have vision, to learn how to manifest that vision by leaning on other people, building teams around you and delegating responsibility. And so all through college, I did that, and all through graduate school, I did that. And even in my career, I've done that. I have the privilege of hiring brilliant people who are smarter than I am in certain areas, and really delegating the task of them being great in what they do, and allowing me to really cast vision, support that vision by really holding people together in community and building community. So it's a gift that I have, and I I'm grateful for it, and I'm learning day by day how to leverage it on behalf of others.
And how are you looking to see that vision kind of play out in the Africana studies since your inception, 2021?
Yeah. So one of the things that happens, and I learned this at Northeastern, African American studies and Black studies and Pan-African studies and Africana studies, all of those disciplines, and they're wonderful disciplines, all came out of the assassination of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in '68. A number of students and staff and faculty members at a number of institutions of higher learning in this nation began protesting and began doing actions, as we call them, to suggest to the powers that be that we needed more Black representation in the decision-making power of institutions. We needed more courses that dealt with and treated Black subject matter with dignity, and to avail to students the dynamic influence that Black people have had on the lives, on the culture, and on the legacy of not only this great nation, but many other nations. Part of the challenge, though, is that we go back to the continent of Africa and only do historic Africa, and then we go historic Africa to the United States, leaving out the Caribbean, leaving out Afro-Latinx experiences and contributions, and then forgetting about the fact that during World War I and World War II and on beyond that, Black people as GIs, whether they were soldiers or cooks or whatever, took their culture with them when the militia traveled over to Europe. And so when we have something like K-pop, Korean pop, which sounds like 90s R&B, it makes sense because so many Black soldiers were either in the Korean conflict or the Vietnam War, and they took, of course, their culture with them everywhere they went. And so what we're trying to do with Africana Studies at Berklee College of Music and Boston Conservatory at Berklee is to make sure that we don't leave out any of the rich and dynamic influence of Black people across the diaspora, and then fully lean into our major assets, which are music, dance, and theater. And to really focus in those areas to show the dynamic impact that Black people have had on what we call, whether American music or world music or the global creative industries. We have inspired, we have created, we have been the leaders and the shapers of so many things that we often don't get credit for. And so our role and responsibility as educators is to bring that to light so that folks will know from whence many things have come
from. And that's a great vision. So, and relaying that, because you also wrote some books around hip hop culture and reaching that age group that you're dealing with, the 18 to 20-year-olds. And that is, could you kind of expound a little bit on that?
Yeah, one of the things that I had the great joy of doing when I was at Northeastern was writing a couple of courses on hip hop culture, that bridged both the cultural aspects of hip hop, but also the industry aspects of hip hop. And then I went over to Brandeis as a visiting professor and wrote a course on hip hop over there and taught, a number of different courses around the nation. And what I found is that we really didn't have a textbook that could be utilized from the perspective of a Black creative who was looking at the culture from the inside out. Right. Many of the historians are from folks who were not necessarily insiders. And then, of course, there were folks who were insiders, but not necessarily creatives. And so we tried to narrate that from a different perspective to help students understand that there is no hip hop without music of the Caribbean, and there's no music of the Caribbean without music of the continent, and there's no music of the continent without people who needed to express themselves in ways, shapes, and forms where there was no previous expression. Okay. So we create music and dance and theater in order to articulate and communicate things that need to be communicated in that time where there's no other way to do it. Right? Okay. So that's how jazz comes about. That's how blues comes about. That's how the spirituals comes about. That's how reggae comes about. That's how, kumina comes about. That's how all of these art forms come about. They're all about communication and leveraging the tool of music, dance, or theater in order to communicate something human being to human being.
Yeah, because you're really connecting the academics, the arts, all of that together.
Yeah.
And inspiring these young people and knowing, but the business piece of it, could you kind of expound on that? Because that's part of the pieces I think they wouldn't get otherwise, because this is a business.
It's a huge business. and I'm gonna say to you which one, right? Whether it's the creative business
that's right,
or the business of higher education, which is a business too, right?
Right.
So there is a notion that people have made art for art's sake. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think art is functional. Art is perfunctory. Art is a necessity in terms of being a tool for our communication practices. But when you have something that people are able to label and put a label of value on, whether it's aesthetically or consumption of value, then now you have a business, right? So hip hop, has revolutionized the entertainment industry going back to the late 70s, early 80s as a business, right? So in 1984, when the Summer Olympics were held in Los Angeles, the opening ceremony for the Summer Olympics featured hip hop breakdancing, and it featured hip hop graffiti, and it featured a number of other signals of the culture. And with that, you had major corporate entities that were sponsoring and underwriting some of these activities and some of the things. So with that, a whole lot of corporate money went into, and so even now when you think about commercials, the sound of hip hop, the look of hip hop, the sentiment of hip hop, the lingo of hip hop, is part of what we see. And so there's a huge business behind that. So it's not just about getting paid a couple of dollars to play at some venue or to play somebody's wedding or play someone's church service. There's a whole industry behind this.
Yeah, and I think that's real important for them to see, especially being at Berklee College of Music.
Yes.
To understand some of those details and what that comes and the rich history behind that.
Yeah, and what we do in Africana Studies is to be able to bridge what we're teaching in the performance space, what we're teaching in our music business and administration space, what we're teaching in our music education space, and bring it all together and wrap around it a cultural competent model so that students can actually see that the things that they're playing, the music, the repertoire that they're playing comes from people. Right? It's not separate and apart from human beings.
That's right.
And so we have to understand that certain music comes as representations of certain neighborhoods and certain communities, which also represents certain struggles and certain challenges that folks were going through at certain times. So it's one thing to say that I'm a bebop drummer or I'm an R&B drummer, but it's another thing to understand what that music speaks to historically, but also speaks to futuristically.
Yeah, like the blues and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, what is your kind of expectations going forward in embodying the vision that you have leading Africana Studies, and how you want to communicate that vision with through Berklee College of Music and the Conservatory?
It's a great question. I appreciate this. The college and the conservatory merged in 2016, so we have two different cultures. One is the college, which was founded in 1945, based on contemporary music, really driven by jazz, but has spread out from there since then. And then the conservatory, which was founded in 1867 as one of the first inclusive conservatories, including women and people of color, going back to not long after Juneteenth. And so you have two rich cultures, two rich histories. What we're trying to do is to say that at the Conservatory, we have a minor in Africana Studies where students who are coming to study music, dance, or theater can accentuate their studies with a complementary pathway, which we are helping to build and to help to make their total experience at the Conservatory, both curricularly and co-curricularly, not only exciting and robust, but educational.
Okay.
And this is not just Black students. This is students from all over the planet.
Yeah.
Berklee College of Music, both the college and the Conservatory, is about 39% global, as we say. So those are 39% of our students that were not, trained in the United States from K through 12. They've come to us, of course, by invitation from all over the world. At the college, we have a new major, which is the major of Black music and culture, which students can come to Berklee College of Music and major in that and receive a bachelor's degree in that. We also have our Africana Studies minor. And the way that we actually envision this is that Africana Studies is a discipline which is heavily focused on the humanities, social sciences. So at Berklee, both the college and conservatory, we're actually becoming the leader in how to do this from arts and culture perspective.
Okay.
How to include the humanities and social sciences within the purview of arts and culture as the leader. And in doing that, we focused our attention on where do many of our students come from. So many of our Afro-diasporic students come from the church. Ironically, whether it's from here in the United States. And so one of the areas that we focus on is gospel music. So, coming up on May the 2nd, Thursday night at the Berklee Performance Center at 8 o'clock, we will have our Reverend's Gospel Choir and one of our other groups on campus, Overjoyed, performing a major concert. It'll be our second annual gospel extravaganza. And our featured guest artist is Bishop Hezekiah Walker,
all right,
who will be here and will be performing with our students. And then this will also be the second year that we will induct our Berklee Gospel Music Hall of Fame folks. This year we'll induct 4 people. Bishop Hezekiah Walker is one. Reverend Milton Bigham, who's the father of all of the mass choirs, will be a second. And then Lisa, I should be more prepared. Lisa Harrigan, who's from the class of 1983, was actually the founder of our Reverend's Gospel Choir, who started that choir as a student. And so we're bringing her back to campus to honor her for her rich legacy and the courage. And then we'll also honor one of our dear sisters. I'm going to think of her name here. Evelyn Lee. Evelyn Lee, longtime music director in the city and director of the Voices of the Renaissance, phenomenal educator. And so we'll honor her as well for all of her work that she's done in the city of Boston. And so those folks will be added to the first cohort that we brought on last year. So that's one thing. The second area that we'll do is in the area of hip hop culture. Okay. No surprise there, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so we just had a major concert a couple months ago in November where we celebrated Roxanne Shante and brought her to campus and inducted her into our Berklee Hip Hop Hall of Fame. Okay. We also inducted Professor Prince Charles Alexander. Oh, yeah. And we also inducted, Boston's own Ed O.G. And so we'll continue with that, and we'll do another major concert in the fall. So I think what you can see is a couple of things. We leverage the performance aspect of allowing our students to do what they do and perform. We partner them with legacy artists, and then we celebrate folks who are doing the work for many years and who have really created a rich legacy with our Hall of Fame. We have classes that also curricularize these things, not just from the United States perspective, but also from the global perspective. And then we also work with community partners to make sure that we don't just create silos of education on our campus, but we get our students out to experience the greater Boston community and partner with some of our, community partners to get their get their kind of street cred, if I can say it that way, right?
All right. Yeah, because one of those partners is the Hamilton Garrett School.
Absolutely. We're so proud of the Hamilton Garrett School, and Professor Jeremy Groover Flores is doing a great job. She actually teaches a course for us on the spirituals in Africana studies. But we're so proud of those young people there, and how they're blossoming and what they're doing, not only around just singing, but also music theory, life preparation, and of course now the whole marching band that's going on at the Hamilton Garrett. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, that drum line is something else.
Drum line, amazing.
Yeah, and with that partnership, I mean, these young people are getting exposure to Berklee College of Music. Is that possibly continue this relationship and help them grow through the theory and maybe hopefully one day expound to be students at Berklee?
That's the goal? I mean, what you just said is the goal.
Okay.
So we have a responsibility, Africana studies, and really just Black people in general, diasporic people in general. We're communal people. We're collectivist people.
Yeah.
So we don't ever do anything just for our own good, just so that I can benefit from it. And so we're building this unit the same way. We are community oriented in terms of what we do. Hamilton Garrett was the first official community partnership that we've created. We have a couple of other community partners that will be rolling out soon, and some work that we'll be doing in the community. But it's so important that as we train leaders, and I like to think about them as global leaders, we also need to look behind us to see who are the folks who will be taking our seats. And if we can train forward and also train backwards, then I think we're doing not only justice work, but we're doing legacy work. So these young people in the Hamilton Garrett, absolutely, for those of those young students who want to continue on their education and come to Berklee College of Music or Boston Conservatory at Berklee, we want to prepare them now. We want to prepare them while they're at the Hamilton Garrett so that they can have access, but also have the opportunity to leverage that access. So what you just said and the way you articulate it means that both myself and Professor Jeremy Groover Flores were doing a good job because you got the vision. That's it.
Right. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, because that's so important to give them that foundation early on,
Yeah.
and they can continue to grow and develop into it.
That's it.
Everybody needs a hand up, right?
Yeah. And it's not so much, and we don't approach it from we need to help them. We approach it from somebody saw something in us and got us early enough where they inspired, encouraged, empowered, right, and created opportunities for us. And so it's not us about trying to save these young kids. It's not us about trying to, hook them up. It's about honoring the fact that they're putting in the hard work and they're doing things now that signal to me they're serious already. Yeah. So if they're serious already, I need to be paying attention to them and make sure that they have access and the opportunity to thrive.
That's right. Yeah. What are some of the favorite parts of working in academics that you've?
This is a strange question, Brother Justice. This is a strange question because I actually am one who really enjoys academia. The joke is that academia could be more political than Congress. It can be more political than the Supreme Court. It can be more political than, the White House even.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it because every day when I show up to this battlefield called Berklee, and I see that the decisions that we make positively and progressively impact young people, that they have access to information that they may not have had before, that they're learning things that even their teachers may not have taught them. And to see their eyes open wide, to see their mouths gape wide open with an aha, and to hear it in their musical performance, to hear it and see it on the dance floor when they're choreographing, and to see it as they act and do theater, to see that in real life, and then get to emails from former students who look back over their time at the school, and they may not have appreciated a lot of things about the institution, and all of us who are alums of institutions have some things that we can look back and say, man, y'all should have done better on this. But the one thing that I get is the students say, thank you for caring about us.
Yeah.
And leveraging this historical moment, because we're in a weird place in this nation and a weird place in this world, but leveraging this historical moment to not be afraid to tell the truth and to inform and to empower and to encourage. So I love it. I love the opportunity to work with some of the phenomenal people that I work with. We have a dynamic staff within Africana Studies, and we have, I think, the greatest faculty on the planet, and we're building. And so, I'm so excited, if you can't tell.
Oh, yeah. No, but that's good because you're intersecting academics as well as the arts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And building on that foundation.
Yeah.
And bringing out all those good positives in the individuals and everyone around them.
Absolutely.
To see, their creativity, the innovation, the business part of it, music, the theory, dance. Oh, that's excellent.
Oh, it's so fun. And to see some of the most creative human beings around the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, these aren't, every high school has one or two or three. But everybody at Berklee, whether the college or conservatory, is like the top, right? And to take that talent and to know that if you just, add a little bit of spice to their recipe, man, it's gonna kick it up a whole nother notch, man. Take it to the whole nother level. And so to see that in real time is just amazing.
Yeah. Giving them a nice safe space too to do
and
that.
That's,
be creative.
Yeah.
And be free.
And to be courageous.
Yeah. Any final thoughts as we wrap up the podcast today you'd like to share with us, with our listening audience before we end it?
Yeah, man. I love what you're doing, brother. I mean, I do want to take a moment to say thank you for your work and for how you bring this information to us, via the podcast. I enjoyed listening to my dear brother, the Reverend Dr. Kirk Byron Jones, and the episode you did with him, and so many other episodes. And I want to confess to your listeners, man, that you chased me down, and and I was unresponsive, and so I just want to publicly apologize to you, my brother, for taking so long to get here to your office and to hang out, with you, because the work that you do is absolutely amazing, is priceless, and we need more of it. So thank you for your courage and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Any other things you want to share before we wrap it up for our aspiring musicians and people in academia? Or
I think, there is an old adage that I want to leave with your listeners.
Okay.
And the way that I think about it is when we were in preschool and kindergarten and early grades, we had some phenomenal human beings who invested so much in us. And it's not so much about talent and about, music or whatnot, but, we had teachers who told us, to always bring a pencil with us, or to always be prepared, or to, make sure you had a napkin in your lunch, all those different small things. And the more you move in your career and the more that you gain title and the more that you gain accolades and all the great things that happen to you over life, I hope that we never forget those early, easy lessons.
Yeah.
Right. Always carry, your pencil with you, always, bring your napkin, with you, always do those things. And the most important lesson that I'll, remember and share as an aspiration is to always treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yes.
We learn that as kindergartners and first graders and second graders. And in the world that we live in now, it may be one of the greatest life lessons ever.
Yeah.
Treat people the way that you desire to be treated.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today. And definitely I enjoyed recording this episode. I hope people enjoy listening to it, because this is an essential conversation. What I want you to do is to like, comment, subscribe, share it with others in your wider community. Until the next time, check out our past episode. I'll see you at the next one. Peace. I'm your host, Justin.